The Bite Me podcast is coming right up, and it is brought to you every week right here on YouTube by Freedom Boats. It is the best shallow running boat on the water, and there is a model perfect for you. The Chiquita 14, the Eagle 16, the Patriot 18, the Commander 21, the beautiful Warrior like I have 23, or the big boy that runs so shallow, the General 26. Chet Moore and Pooty can customize it however you'd like, and there's a dealer near you, whether it's the Boatyard in Kemah or dealerships in San Antonio, Beaumont, Corpus Christi, Port O'Connor, Houston, and Aransas Pass. Freedom Boats or freedomboatsusa.com. All right, here we go. Happy day, everybody. And it's the Bite Me podcast. We're ready to go here with Captain Scott, Captain Dean, and Captain Caleb, and we're excited about this show. We have a little news to cover, of course, with the weather. We'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to talk about dumb boaters. I don't know why it comes back down to that, but it just seems like it's a consistent thing. All kinds of stuff to cover with you today. Of course, do want to mention to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Podbean is where we point you most of the time because you can get every podcast we've ever done. And group page, that's where we get these topics. A lot of them, shout out to the fellas. They came up with some topics this week. That's always cool because they are out on the water. They see something. They're perusing the internet. They see something, and it's something that I know all our listeners will be interested in as well. So, yeah, let's just get right into it, man. I think this is going to be a power-packed show, so to speak. But I want to start with the weather. And first of all, no, it's not my jinx coming to fruition because, Dean, I'm going to start with you. I know you stay on top of this. All the guys do. But it's the Arctic, what is it? The Arctic Blast.
Polar Express.
The Polar Express, the Jumpin' Jack Flash. It's an Arctic blast that's coming down to our neck of the woods. But it's not. It doesn't look, now things could change, but it doesn't look like it's going to come down to the coast. It's just going to kind of hover about the furthest south. It seems like anyway is going to be the Houston area. What are you thinking on this weather and what's it going to do?
Man, I mean, it's still a week out, or
few days.
5 or 6, 7 days. I thought it was Saturday was the big one.
Yeah, Saturday's the big one.
Yeah, so I mean, there's of course inland from us, they're calling for, around the Corpus Christi area, Beeville, inland from there in 30-ish. But they're still, calling for the coast. It's we're getting a lot of influence from Mexico, from the Pacific that's coming across. And if we stay cloudy with a lot of moisture, we won't get as cold on the coast. But it's still a few days out. The predictors tend to get a little dramatic.
Yes, they do.
I always try to gather information without the drama. But with the weather, that's not always easy.
And Scott, you and John Parkoff tells us here that it's 100% my jinx. It's not a jinx. It's not going to be. But tell us what you think how it's going to affect the water.
Depends on how much wind we get. And so far, they're showing a whole lot of wind on Saturday and Sunday. If it's super cold like that, I mean, they're showing us at 34, 35 with a whole bunch of wind. If that gets mixed in, then it's going to drop water temperatures pretty quick.
Like what? Especially with the wind, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can, the surface water temperatures, the upper end, it'll be close to what the air temperatures are with that much wind. The deeper holes, it takes a little longer. But then again, if you have that much wind and the tide's out, hell, the tide's already out low.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Out even more.
Yeah.
Then you get the good mix going on with the wind. It can chill it down pretty deep.
The other thing, Caleb, he mentioned the tide. I know Dean wants to say something about the tide. It's way out. It's been way out, and that's just the third little factor I wanted to talk about with maybe some cold weather. And if it does dip down a little further south, especially Matagorda, where you are, might be a little more susceptible than other places. Certainly Galveston.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Scott's saying to the fact that the tide levels when it starts happening are a factor, and then the tide levels that get there once it starts blowing through. Because if you have fish that are already cut off from escaping to deeper water and they're sitting in 1.5 feet, 2 foot of water or less, then that's going to get cold a lot faster, and they don't have anything that they can do about it.
Yeah.
Probably applies to the redfish a little bit more than the trout, I would think, just
Mhm.
because of the areas that they loiter in. But yeah, no, tides are already low. We've kind of been to where they really can't get any lower, like, or never
Yeah.
seen them. Never seen them lower than that anyway. I've been watching pictures of my buddies literally driving their boats through mud and
Mhm.
stuff that's usually 2 feet of water.
And
Yeah.
the one thing that we didn't mention is how long it stays that cold. So far this winter, the cold fronts that we've had have been short-lived.
You're
Where
welcome.
it drops, the water temperature comes back up. So yeah, the their water temperature yesterday was 60, 61 degrees in a lot of places. So it hasn't stayed cold long enough to chill the mud down, to chill what's
Mhm.
under the water. So depends on how long it sticks with us on how how fast it'll drop, how long it'll stay down there. But the
Mhm.
tides, I mean, if y'all are ready to go there,
Yeah.
Caleb mentioned the tides yesterday and the day before were probably the lowest that I have seen that I can remember. I mean, in 10 years, 15 years.
Like how low?
So normally on the tide chart, if you're looking at the number at Port Aransas, where it is, normally if you're looking at 1.4, 1.5, that's like a medium high tide where you can run around the flats, but it's still shallow, where I can skim, the shallowest grass beds, and you can still take off, launch your boat, and get around, but that's average low.
Mhm.
Tide yesterday was minus 1.2. So
Wow.
if you're looking at 1.5, 1.2, that is almost 30 inches
Mhm.
less of water. You take a flat that has basically 30 inches of water on it on a normal tide, those flats are completely dry, like Ransom, Dagger, Estes, Terminal Flats. Those you couldn't run a skiff on yesterday.
Ransom and terminal are dry?
The
Or
cuts,
you know what I mean, mud?
the cuts that we used to get on and off of those flats were bone dry. They were dirt. I mean, you could not even skim across those little shortcuts to get onto those flats. And if you were courageous enough to get onto those flats, you were running in 6 inches of water, and if you stopped, you were there.
Courageous.
Courageous.
Foolish.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is the kind of low that the tide could only get on a round earth, because the flat earth there wouldn't be enough water. I mean, there would
That's right.
the water just kind of stay in that area.
Yeah.
But
Very interesting though to run and look at those flats and see where there's islands in the middle of those flats that are normally humps.
Mhm.
That, I mean, they're your little engine, your little chunk of crap that
Oh, the
destroys
thing I hit?
that knocks all the propellers. You could see it from the marina. It
Oh,
was
I can
so
get the
far out
serial
of the
number.
water.
I could get the serial number on
Yes.
this.
Yeah, you could file charges on the dude that sunk it there.
That's right.
I was looking at the forecast just a minute ago, and it looks like Saturday and Sunday is getting down into the 20s, and then Monday's pretty cold, but then it starts coming back up, and I think the lows in the 40s after that. So it's going to get cold, and a little bit of bad stuff might happen, but it's
Nothing too bad.
it's not that 5 or 6 or 7 days straight of the
Mhm.
highs not getting out of the 20s also, though.
Yeah.
Like
And
last time.
that's what I wanted to bring Scott in for. It looks like Galveston, maybe certainly Sabine. It looks like the blast is going to be up there, down to where Caleb is. But even those places, I mean, I'm not gonna say nothing to worry about, but it doesn't seem as daunting.
It's not gonna be, this isn't a killer kind of freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll have little spots that you lose some fish. We always lose fish in Pringle if we
Mhm.
get a hard north wind and a hard drop, because it pushes the water in there first. And then so the tide goes up in Pringle, trout tend to go in there when the tide goes up, and then they get trapped up in there. And we almost always have a few cold stun fish on any kind of a hard freeze. This one
Mhm.
might not even be enough to do that. And our water temperature today is like 64,
Damn.
63, 64.
Yeah.
55 yesterday. Came
Mhm.
all the way up. Even with this rain and clouds and all that on, it coincided with a pretty strong incoming tide.
Mhm.
So Gulf water is obviously a good bit warmer
Yeah.
than it should be right now. And with that coming in, it warmed things up a little bit on the tides. But that water gets blown out and you get the wind and it stays low for a bit. It's going to what it's going to do is start off our winter patterns.
Yeah.
The water temperature is finally going to drop down. It's going to have all these exposed flats. The mud's going to get cold instead of where it's been, where we had a little front and it blows in, blows the water out. The water comes right back and floods the flats and doesn't stay cold long enough to chill the mud.
Yeah. The good news is y'all are fishing. Dean, I know you're catching fish. You were just asked about it here on the text. Where when you can find places to fish, it kind of narrows it down, doesn't it, Dean?
Well, yeah, definitely. So every fish, like all those flats that I mentioned, ransom, dagger, terminal, Estes, that's just in my backyard. So, I mean, you could branch out across the entire coast, pick one. All of those flats that you normally fish on that are bone dry, it pulls every mullet, every fish, red, trout off of those flats. I mean, it's been really cool. I mean, there's a couple of spots that we have found where we dock the boat on the sandbar, walk across the sandbars, and have found schools of reds that are actually trapped in some deeper holes that didn't make it to the edge. And I mean, they are just swimming in circles. You can stand there and pick them off. Yesterday, I was actually on a buddy of mine's boat, a little weenie Poland skiff. I sent y'all the video, which was pretty funny because
he lost his pole.
His fish,
well, he lost half his pole.
Three piece. I don't know, may have been 4, may have been 3, 5. I don't know how many he glued together, but the connection in the middle, the pole stuck in the mud. He went to pull it out. Only half of the pole came back. But we were in a tiny little skiff that would float in inches, and we were still seeing reds that were singled out, big redfish, upper slots that were in 6 inches of water. So there's big schools gathered on the drop-offs that have been pulled off the flats. The deepest flats that still have enough water that they weren't completely pulled off have plenty of redfish in 6 inches of water. But the water temperature is still warm. They really don't have a reason to leave that just yet, as long as there's enough to
what about you, Caleb? Where you guys finding them?
Deeper spots. I mean,
I'm wondering about the channel is what I'm wondering about.
I mean, trout fishing, they're still on the drop offs off of the bank, and there's and it's been like they said in the 60s. There's still been fish up on the shallows. Redfish, kind of the same thing. The lakes that have some water in them, they're still fishing them. Rivers and the creeks and the bayous and the diversion channels and all that, they're pretty stinking loaded up right now.
That's
so
good.
It just depends on what kind of quality you're looking for. It still hadn't hit that wintertime. Everything's tough yet.
And those fish that we were seeing on the flats in the ultra shallow water were very difficult to catch. They weren't on the prowl. They weren't in kill mode. You could see them. You could make casts to them, but they weren't willing to hit. The ones that were biting aggressively were the schools that were running the edges of the drop-offs. And the thing about those schools, I mean, they weren't obvious. They still were not easy to find. They're not given a lot of signs that they're there. As you're drifting or trolling down the edges, you would just blow up a school of them and immediately put the pole down, park, and they wouldn't run far. They'd go 20 or 30 feet and settle down, and then you could easily catch those. And then they kind of wanted to stay. Whenever it drops that low and they're hanging around those drains, they want to be there. They don't just flee the scene. So if you're really patient, you catch 1 or 2 out of that crowd, sit there, wait. Normally they will come back and do it again.
And last thing on this, Scott, you mentioned winter pattern, just really kind of the kickoff for a true winter pattern. Beyond what, like Caleb and Dean said, the big drop-offs and then the deeper water where Caleb is, maybe some of those flats that are a little skinnier. Is there anything else that jumps out that our listeners need to know about the winter, quote unquote, winter pattern?
Yeah, I'm fishing more in the afternoons than the mornings. Let the water warm up a little bit. You're going to have clearer water overall. So you might want to downsize your lures a little bit, go a little more lifelike. More natural looking lures tend to work better for me that time of year. The big, huge top waters don't seem to do as well. Water's that clear. Noisy, big noisy stuff doesn't seem to do as well. It's more subtle. That's my main changes.
That's good stuff.
As far as on the flats, the reds are going to get up there as soon as the sun comes back out. It warms up a little. The bait fish go back up there. Water comes back. Redfish are going to go back. I catch them there every year. Cold water doesn't really seem to bother them all that much. Trout, they're going to stay more where the thermoclines are, a little bit deeper water off the edge of the flats most of the time.
I get the real feeling that John really wants us to say over mud and shell. There's like three of us. He's like, all right, are you sure there's nothing else? And that ties in what Dean was saying, that it hadn't been cold enough for the bottom to get real cold, and that mud will hold heat through this little cold snap here. But at the same time, it's going to get cold, and those fish are going to get weird for a while, and then it's going to start warming back up, and they're going to start feeling better. And that warm mud is going to be there, and they are going to be liking it, but it's going to climb right back up fairly quick. I think I saw something where it looked like the nights were staying in the 40s for pretty much the remainder of the week. So that's going to keep that water temp down. Probably, what do you think, Scott? Be in the 50s by Thursday or so, something like that. 55-degree water temperature is pretty prime trout fishing water temperature. I don't consider that real cold.
Yeah.
So they're gonna nestle up for a couple of days, but then it's gonna start climbing back out of it.
Yeah. And go ahead, Scott.
You're talking about this Thursday. No, I mean,
no, next Thursday after the front.
Yeah. This week, still hell. I got 72 degrees Friday.
Yeah, I'm saying 4 or 5 days after the front, it's going to climb back up to into the 50s. I'm going to bet you.
Yeah. And text here, message from FG. If the water gets very cold with these super low tides, will the fish move out to the Gulf like they do in the summer in extreme heat?
Ours don't.
No.
I don't know.
If in extreme cold, they go to the intercoastal, they go to harbors, they go to deeper spots. They don't leave the bay to go to the Gulf. They're just going to seek refuge in the bays.
Yeah, I can't think of a situation where they ever go to the Gulf and then come back. Even in the heat, they'll vacate the shallow back lakes and go to the intercoastal and the bays and stuff like that. But as far as going to the Gulf and back out, I guess flounder do that.
But that's different. Yeah,
I'm remarkably not a flounder guy. So
no kidding.
I can't tell you a heck of a lot about them. But but McKee did a whole tracking thing on that. If those fish really intermingle, and they don't seem to do it. So
all right. So let's talk about dumb boaters. You've heard Mark Nichols on the podcast, and he's caught more fish and changed the fishing game like few others. Mark and DOA Lures have everything you need and want on the water. That's what we use. DOALures.com is the website. Of course, you got the classic DOA shrimp, but top waters as well. I'm a big fan of the PT7. You see us using that all the time. That is DOA. Get to a retailer near you. They are all over. Or go to DOALures.com, and be sure to listen for Mark Nichols on this podcast. They have revolutionized the fishing industry, and they keep doing it. DOALures.com. And all that entails. This is
somebody came to the door. I gotta go.
I was gonna say, I need a restroom break.
I got a text from one Dean.
I ain't going nowhere.
From one Captain Dean Thomas.
I'm here to discuss.
And the text said, I would like to take some time to discuss idiotic boaters, not dumb boaters, idiotic boaters. I'm sure this has something that comes from something that happened on the water, Dean.
Yeah. I mean, of
course it is.
And this is a subject that we visit throughout the year.
Because it keeps coming up.
And not to beat a dead horse or get up on a pedestal and just preach too much, but if we can reach that one dumbass
The one dumbass.
that brought it to my attention
We're talking to
this
you.
week, it is the
He's trying to be diplomatic.
trying-
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Just say it.
what gets me is, I try to figure out someone's thought process whenever they're making that decision. As a fellow boater, as a fellow angler out there on the water, we all have to share the water. We all have to, you kind of think you want to help each other out in a certain way, or,
help me help you. Help me help you.
But on these low tide times, running those drop offs, I mean, from one end to the, I watch boats, and we're sitting on schools of redfish. I mean, we were sitting there just working them over, being patient.
Now we're getting the details.
And then a mile down the shoreline, here comes this
He
dude.
finally found the clutch.
And I mean,
he's turning over a new leaf. He's
running 2 to 3 feet from the sandbar, right on the edge. And for a mile, just running. Here he comes. Barely moves off the shoreline. I mean, the wake rocks the boat that we're in as they pass by and jump back on it and run 2 miles the other direction with zero intention of stopping and fishing there. Just trashing the entire area. For anybody that comes along in the next hour, 2 hours, they just will. They don't. I don't know if they are. What is the thought process? But to disrupt that much water, that much area for everybody else that's out there, what is the point? And if you run up on a shoreline and you are using that technique to kick up some fish or spot some fish and stop, and then put in an hour or so of actually catching those fish, I can almost get with that. But just to completely run the shorelines, run over the people that are fishing there with 3 miles of open water in a calm day. You're not avoiding rough water. You're not avoiding anything else. The option to run hundreds of yards off of that drop off, off of that shoreline is absolutely there. But you chose to run over the people that were fishing and run the entire shoreline. It just bewilders me on how anybody can think that is acceptable in any form or fashion. And I mean, the penalty should be you don't get to have a boat. You don't get to play the game anymore. But if we can, and I tried not to get up on my soapbox, but maybe I did.
You're not doing a very good job because you're not off it and you're not on it. It's kind of lukewarm in the middle. Pick one way and go, dude.
He's trying.
You got 1 foot on, 1 foot off.
Yeah.
You're doing the exercise steps thing,
Yeah.
I mean, somehow we have got to get through to people and understand that we're all metaphorically in the same boat out there.
That's what we're doing. That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
We're all, and I mean, I go out of my way to give people space. I mean, I really try to lead by example. I go into an area, if there's 1 or 2 boats there, I'm out. I mean, I move along, don't crowd people's space. But so the rules, I don't know if there actually are rules. I don't know
They're
what you want
unwritten rules.
But whenever fish are stacked on these drop-offs, there's days when you get 10 or 12 boats along those edges, and they can all catch fish. They all can be productive if it's approached slowly. You can nudge in on. And so I was there the other day with somebody on the boat, and as we were talking, as this boat starts easing up on me, they've said something to me about, man, they're getting kind of close. And I'm like, man, as long as they go slow and quiet, I'm absolutely cool with that. It's like, ease on in here, catch you a fish. But to run through, disrupt it, and do something just totally ignorant idiotic actually was my preferred word.
Yes, it was.
That, you know, why even as you're coming down that shoreline, what goes through your mind that says, I'm going to go ahead on and do this?
I want to get Scott and Caleb's thoughts on this and any experiences they might have had. But as you're talking, I'm sitting here, Caleb, and I'm like, I get it if it's a Saturday in May and there's a million boats on the water, and sometimes, you know what, there's a guy in the cut and you got to go through, so you just be as careful. But this time of year on a weekday when you have it, I'm just like, I am perplexed by stuff like that. But your thoughts and any experiences similar?
You know, I'd like to be the first one to congratulate Mendoza on a Heisman season. That was
Yes, sir.
phenomenal, wasn't
Yes,
it?
sir. Yes, sir. You're avoiding the question.
Was the water clear, Dean?
And so I don't want to exclude
Okay,
a
it's coming.
category of anglers because there has been a variety of behavior. Kayakers who park, which Caleb reminded me of this, where there's a cut or there is a path that is frequented, that there's only one way or in or out, and you have to go through there. Kayakers, for some reason, do it more than boats do. They tend to park and want to fish in those cuts, those entrances. And then as you pass through there, you know, they look at you like you're doing something wrong when you really don't have a choice. If you're in a kayak and you're fishing, like, consider it like an on-ramp to the freeway. Everybody's going that way. If you're in a kayak and you're sitting in a high traffic area, you aren't getting use out of your equipment, because if you're in a kayak, you should be in an area that nobody can get to, that they shouldn't be able to see you if you're kayaking. Yeah. So and the kayakers have been parked in these channels, just hovering around the middle of them. Just
they're defeating the purpose.
I mean, they're putting themselves in danger, first of all, because those cuts are going to get used. They're going to get run through. And, you know, don't be upset when somebody uses that pass to get on and off of a flat or running a channel, getting from point A to B while you're sitting basically in the middle of the road.
Scott, what do you think? And I mean, the duck hunters do it to me pretty much every day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the airboats and the duck hunters, that's all they want. All they want to do is run the edge, run the edge of the grass, run the edge of the flat. I mean, it happens constantly. Regular boats, I've had a couple of them here in the last few weeks. It's almost like, well, there's nobody out here, so we're going to do what we want to do.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of backwards. You know, you kind of expect it in the summer. Yeah, you got people out there that aren't used to being out there. Guys who are out there on weekdays this time of year, they're pretty hardcore fishermen in my mind.
Yeah.
And you would think that they would know better. But yeah, I had one run me pretty hard the other day. Ran in on me while I was poling and didn't stop. Just ran into the shoreline 7,500 yards ahead of me in the direction I was poling, and then proceeded to run till I couldn't see him anymore. I mean, just went down the shoreline and just kept going. And I thought he was coming in, to stop and get out and wait or something. Nah, he just jumped up there and ran. And there was fish everywhere. That was the thing. If you're burning the shoreline looking for fish,
you'll see them.
You must have been blind, because you had to have been running over fish. Hell, from where I was at, I could see the wakes leaving out from the fish he was burning up.
Yeah.
The duck hunters, I know what's coming. You know, I mean, you can hear them when they leave Port O'Connor, and 10 minutes later they get to you. But the guys who fish all the time this time of year, that really blows my mind that they'll do it as well.
And that's what you would expect. That's what John would say, a busy weekend, those things where it's just congested, it's just crowded, and that happens. But when you're out there on a Monday in January and it's you and them and nobody else on the horizon, and this boat just burns, I don't know. Maybe they do that because they think nobody's out there. But it is still, it's just horrible behavior. It's just there needs to be a law.
That particular day, I saw 3 boats. If that give you any idea.
And
There.
airboats have options. Airboats could run across the grass,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
can avoid interactions. They have a
Mhm.
lot of options. And of course, the boats that are running up and down those edges, they have options too, because there's 2 miles of open water. There's no wind, no waves. There's absolutely no reason to run that shoreline and to run 4 miles of shoreline and never stop.
All
No
right.
intentions of fishing.
Caleb,
Maybe they
any-
were trying to keep from disturbing the fish that were out in the middle.
maybe that's what they wanted to
They
do.
didn't. They didn't want to hit a dolphin.
I was thinking about all those channels and drains and cuts in Matagorda, though, Caleb. Those are always dicey this time of year. I don't care what day of the week you're going, just because everybody wants to go up in those because of what we're talking about here. The drop offs and stuff.
It's terrible this time of year.
Mhm.
PSA: if y'all try to go to Lake Austin, you're gonna hit bottom, and when you hit bottom, don't get scared and just say we're gonna stop and fish here, because I won't have a bottom left whenever I come around the corner. Oh man, when the tides are out, it's terrible. There's a narrow channel. I'm trying to think of a single back lake we have that doesn't have like a 15, 20-foot wide spot you have to hit
Mhm.
going in. I can't think of one. And the kayaks and stuff, I feel like they want to go back in there and fish, but they really don't want to commit to going up there, and that's how they end up there.
Yeah, I think you're
I've-
right. Yeah.
I've never understood why you would stop and fish a channel whenever there's some fabulous water at the end of that channel, and you drove through some fabulous water to get to it. I don't know much about bait fishing, and I can only assume that's what they're doing. Maybe it's a fantastic place to throw bait. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's July 1st or April 1st or January
Mhm.
1st. I don't know why you would fish that anyway. It looks like it'd be boring and it would suck.
Yeah. I totally agree.
But
Go ahead.
And you're about to get run over.
well, I
And
mean,
exactly.
yeah, and give an old dude an aneurysm trying real hard to be politically correct. I thought he was gonna pop. I thought he was gonna break there. I was
I had
waiting
to
for it.
take my jacket off. It's getting hot in here. That's all I-
Dean was like, you could just see him trying to reel it back, like it was taking drag. And,
Yeah.
it was taking drag, but he had to kind of reel it back in. just a
About
little.
3 minutes into it, he found the clutch, and I was like, "Oh, here it comes."
He
in
tightened down
this
the
day
drag.
and age of information, you can go to the internet and you can learn where every reef is. You can learn everything, but your ass can't learn how to behave out there.
Hey, I've been taking courses on AI this morning. You don't
Mhm.
even have to try to learn anymore. Like, you just talk to this little girl on your phone, and she'll tell you all about how to do it.
Well, you can choose whether it's a girl or not, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
Mine's
right.
definitely a girl.
I knew it. Of course it is. So I definitely want to get to the oystering thing here in a little bit, because Scott sent this and I read it and it was pretty dang cool. But talk about the group page. Oh, and the other thing is, if you want to avoid all these troubles and have people looking at you sideways, don't forget to book my 3 guys here. It's January, getting into February, getting into wading, getting into some good fishing this time of year. Be sure to hit the group page up and message Scott, Dean, and or Caleb. Message all 3 of them. A lot of guys have done exactly that, including guys listening right here and messaging us. You book them all 3 up in Matagorda, Port O'Connor, and down south in Aransas Pass. So I did want to mention that. And speaking of the group page, that's what reminded me of. This is a topic that was on the group page on Facebook, which of course you can join. Just search "Bite Me" or my name or whatever. And it was about fighting fish. Now, a while back, I know Scott and I had this discussion, but I think there's some stories here as well. I guess you guys will remember, Scott. I'm gonna start with you on fighting the fish, kind of the one that got away but shouldn't have. Just cleaning up some misconceptions, some mistakes you've seen on your boat, and then I want to get to Caleb and Dean, of course. But the question was about, and he had a couple of good answers there, people responding, but I want to get it from you. I think it was a big trout, and he had the rod tip straight up and high, and all of a sudden the fish spit it out. And you and I have had this discussion, but what are some of the, not do's and don'ts per se, because I know, you're going to explain it, but when you're fighting a big fish like that, some of the things that you definitely recommend.
Big trout are different from big reds.
Okay.
With a trout, you got that softer mouth. I like to back off the drag. Some people don't like to mess with their drag during a fight. I'll back off the drag and put my thumb on it. That way I can play it with my thumb when it gets close and give it a little bit extra line if it needs it. I'm not a real big fan of that real high rod tip. I see it a lot, but the rod it's kind of your cushion if you've got a light enough rod. If you got a stiffer rod, you're putting a lot more pressure on that thing upwards, and you're standing a chance of slinging that sucker out of there. I think the biggest problem people get into is they get in a hurry to land that big fish. It's like, got to get it here, got to get it here. Just slow down, take a breath, relax for a second, and bring it in nice and easy. Instead of that, if it's still thrashing, you don't want it up close to you. Yeah, that's a real good way to lose it pretty quick. I'm not a net guy. I don't like a net when I'm wading. So I want that fish really calm when it comes up to me. So it just slides up, and when it rolls over on its side, that's when I can reach down there and grab it. Biggest trout of my life was lost because of a net. And I don't ever want to see that thing happen again.
So that was the end of the net.
It wasn't even my net. It was my buddy who shuffled over there to me and said, "Hey man, let me net that for you." I'm like, "No,
maybe it wasn't the net, but the netter."
It was the netter. I know it was the netter.
Netters are always armed with a net.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And as he reached down there to scoop that sucker, because he got in a hurry. Yeah, it wasn't quite ready, and he shuffled over there beside me, and as it came by, he stabbed at it and hit the lure instead of getting the fish in there, and hooked the lure onto the edge of the net, and one little quick shake and she was gone.
Yeah,
Actually, she wasn't gone. She hovered.
Yeah,
And
she
did that
winked at you.
frustrating
She winked
thing
at you.
Yeah, where they just sit there and they just kind of hover for a second or two.
Yeah,
You can see them and they kind of get sideways, so you can really get a good look at how big they were, and then just fade away.
Yeah. You didn't tell him anything, did you?
Yeah, he just ducked his head and started walking away. He knew what he had done.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, big redfish you can be a whole lot more aggressive with. You lose an 8-pound red, you're going to catch another 8-pound red. You lose 8-pound trout, you might not ever see another 8-pound trout.
Pat Gardner caught a real good trout in the land cut as me and him out of the boat. He said, "Get the net." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm going to grab his leader and just flop it up in here." I grabbed the leader, and man, he used a way lighter leader than I thought he did. And I still think it's funny. I laughed then and I laugh now. The look on his face. But unlike Pat's statement, I'm like, "Pat, you'll see another 8-pounder. Don't worry about it, dog."
I know what Pat told you. I know. I don't have to ask. I know what Pat told you.
The word, and I'm not even making this up, the word "gosh" was involved about 7 times.
Gosh.
He said "gosh" a lot. It's like very Napoleon Dynamite.
I can hear him saying it. I can hear him saying it. So there are some different things that might be at play here, Caleb, because we've all heard it. I've said it a couple of times in certain situations. Keep your rod tip up. Keep your rod tip up. To me, that's when the fish is around the boat by the trolling motor or something like that. I want them to keep their rod tip up. But I'm just curious, what your thoughts are on all that whole thing.
When we say keep your rod tip up, that's because we're looking at somebody that barely has any bow in their rod at all. They're pointing it at the fish. And
True.
the easiest way is for us to explain that very quickly is get your rod tip up. As long as you've got pressure on the fish, you're okay. I agree with Scott. I don't like the high sticking, especially wading. Nets are the devil unless the only thing you're throwing is plastics and you don't have the crap luck that good when you're trying to get in there has the lure came out of his cheek and still sticking out. I hate nets wading, but my personal move is a variety of little things. Like Scott said, don't panic. Panic is the number one way people lose that fish. Hurry in and all of that. You get the fish circling around you, and you do not change that fish's direction whatsoever. If he wants to circle clockwise, you circle clockwise until he doesn't want to anymore. Same way for counterclockwise. And if he wants to switch directions, then just go with him.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fight against him. You're wallering on the hook. You're putting more pressure on that fish. All those sort of things. Once the fish is done taking, like, we'll call a significant amount of drag, like 2 to 3 feet at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Once he's into those, maybe there's like just some little pools here and there. I tend to grab my rod in front of my reel. I don't know, maybe a foot, maybe more. And what I'm doing is I'm shortening the rod so I have less things holding that fish away from me. B, that shorter rod gives me more control, but I'm also clamping down the line with the palm of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't want that fish to take drag, if I don't feel like she can take enough that it's going to make that hole worse or mess it up, I'm not going to give her drag anymore. I'm going to let her give me that quick pull, and then she's going to come right back to me.
Mm-hmm.
If she needs to pull drag, I can loosen off a little bit and let it slip. Typically it's hard to explain it, but my hand will be above my head, like a kind of like a pitcher of the baseball 90-degree angle. And then my thumb is towards the end of the rod, and my thumb's always pointing towards that fish with just a little bit of upwards tension on the rod. The rod's I'm almost like in the shape of a T.
Mm-hmm.
And then, take into account
I got
where
you.
the rod's bent. And I'm just going to work that sucker. And like Scott said, when she comes up and turns on her side, I'm going to start working on getting a boga in her mouth. And that's where the next mess up usually happens, is they're laying there kind of chilled out and on their side and everything. And you feel like, oh, I got her now. She's mine.
Mm-hmm.
You start poking at her with that boga, she'll start thrashing again. And the great thing about a topwater or a corky is a lot of time that bait is holding their mouth open where you can get a boga in there. However, a plastic or even either of those lures deeper, her mouth can be closed, and she'll lockjaw on you.
Yes, she will.
But eventually, she's going to open her mouth and do like that gasp thing. They do that.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they usually do it more than once. And when they start doing that, that's when I'll start messing with the bogas. But I'm still taking my time and being real patient, putting her on the boga. But
Man, that's
name of the
good
game
stuff.
is take your time and don't overfight the fish.
That's really good stuff. I'm not ashamed to say I've never done that with shortening the rod. It makes sense. Dean, the other thing that we've talked about is when they're away from you on a boat or waiting or whatever, is the best fight is your rod, sideways, because you got more strength in the rod that way, right? This is a game changer, people. Show your boat how much you love it. Take it to Gulf Coast Marine Shield. When I say a complete game changer, it doesn't even do justice how much better, more efficient, and gorgeous your boat will be. New boat, older boat, big boat, or small boat. Gulf Coast Marine Shield offers incredible surface protection, from marine protection film to window film, as in your electronics, and ceramic coatings. Your boat will never look better, and it all adds up to complete protection from salt, sand, while helping protect your paint and gel coat. 832-930-5655, Gulf Coast Marine Shield.
When they're way out there, I don't think it's as critical whether it's up or down or sideways, because there's so much line in the water. But at that point, and I really prefer the big fish to get hooked way out there, because you're going to wear them down before they get close to the boat. If they hit close to the boat, or if you're fighting them or close to you, whether you're waiting, when that line is shortened and that fish is fired up, the closer the fish is to you, it is advantage fish. I want them to be worn out when they're out there, and when they start getting close, they're easy to handle, they're easy to steer, they're easy to direct them. But I will do what Caleb does also. Once they get closer, hold the rod up higher, and then you can direct the fish a little bit more in your favor. But when they go around and around, I mean, when they're fighting, I mean, like when we're on the boat, they'll go, I mean, a really big upper slot red that's fired up. Sometimes, I mean, and every fish has its own attitude. Yeah. Some are going to fight you straight in. Some are going to go around the boat 2 times. And you just have to go with what the fish is giving you. You're never going to muscle them to your will. And if you do that, you're more likely to lose them or break the line if you really do try to horse that fish. So you got to go with them. And then whenever they start wearing down, then things turn in your favor.
Yeah, that's good. Last thing, Scott, because this is turning into a really good topic here. gear that you have. And by the way, Caleb just showed the picture of doing exactly what he's doing. I'm sure you can post that on the group page as well for those who want to see it. But the gear you have, if I'm in a tournament, I'm with heavier gear, and I don't necessarily worry about this stuff anymore as much, I should say. But the other thing is, they can swim to you. They can they can put some slack in that line, and that drives me nuts every time.
Your guide will usually be telling you, he's coming at you, coming at you, coming at you.
Reel.
You hear that a lot. Start reeling.
I've had I can't say how many people like, I think he got off. No, he didn't. Just reel.
No, he's coming at you. And like Dean said, every fish is different. They all fight different. The one thing you can count on with a redfish, almost every time you're fishing from a boat, he's gonna go under the damn boat. At some point towards the end. They just want to go under the boat, and that's when it gets real tricky with people who don't fish a whole lot, because best option there is put your rod tip down into the water. It doesn't
into the
feel
water,
right, but that's the best thing to do. Jacks do it as well. When we're fishing this deeper water, the jacks do it, and I think we broke 3 rods this year.
Oh boy.
On jacks doing just that, right there to the boat. They're almost ready to land, and they make one more dive to go under the boat and straight down, and people will pull straight up. And I'm usually leaning over the side ready to grab that jack about the time it dives, and then out of the corner of my eye I see them rear up with the rod, and then I just kind of close one eye and turn my head and hope I don't catch any shards of fiberglass and resin and in the side of my head. Because it's going to break. And that's what we call high sticking. Yeah, everybody always hears about high sticking. It's when that fish goes down and you pull up. It doesn't work.
Or you put your rod on the edge of the boat. You put a little leverage point.
Yeah, when I'm down there getting ready to land a fish, my right hand or left hand, whichever side the person's on, a lot of times is on that rod. And I'm reaching over with one hand and holding that rod up just a little bit off the edge of the boat, just to keep it from, because what you're doing is you're putting a flat spot in it. When you allow that to happen, and wherever that flat spot is, that's where it's going to break. It's just unnatural for the rod to bend that way. What you were talking about, keeping the rod low and parallel to the water, that applies on those real big fish. If you're trying to land a jack, if you're out there wade fishing and you hook a jack, don't fight it with the rod tip high and all that. You have to keep that rod low to the side and try to turn him. Like Caleb was talking about on the trout, when it's close, going with it. On a big fish out there that you got to land on light tackle, you want to be pulling against whichever way he wants to go. You want to turn him. If he's going left, you're pulling right. Then when he turns, you finally get him turned to go right, turn him left. And it wears him out a lot faster. People complain about how long it takes to land a jack, but if you do that, you'll land them pretty quick. It's almost like it frustrates them. And they get tired of going back and forth like that. We do it on tarpon all the time. Land big tarpon on what's fairly light tackle, and by going the opposite direction. If you go with them and allow them to keep doing what they want to do, the fight's double or triple the length of time.
I can tell you
about me. I'm Scott Noel. I catch big fish on light tackle. I use different rules. Weird flex, bro.
I'll tell you about a mistake I made the other day that had absolutely nothing to do with fighting a fish, but it was a big one. So it's one of those days where we were wade fishing and we had those reds like trapped behind the sandbars. And as we pulled up there, you could see them swirling and kicking. And I get all excited and I grab my fly rod and I jump out of the boat. And I did not grab my fly box or any other gear to go with me. So I walked over there with one rod, one fly. And as I had to take quite a few paces through the deep mud. I mean, they weren't just right there in range. So it took a pretty good effort of walking through like ankle deep mud to get into position. And man, I'm sitting there perfect. Boom, casting there. Bam, nice red. Got to the 4th or the 5th fish and bam, broke my fly off. And then I'm standing there 100 yards or whatever from the boat with a fishing pole in my hand.
That's when you start checking your pockets. Hey, maybe I got one in here somewhere.
I got nothing to tie on.
I can't say I've always gone, oh, there's got to be something in here.
There was nothing.
So I'm the king of leaving pliers in my boat, and then I get out there and just I'm cooked with some fish that if you want to get a fish hooked up in a terrible way, don't bring your pliers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, being after the second or third fish, should you have maybe clipped off and retied?
Oh, there you go. Good advice.
The thought crossed my mind, but in the moment of excitement, I did not do that. And honestly, yes, I thought about it, and it was a mistake. I said it was. Yeah. We're not talking about things that went right in this conversation. There was a series of events that led up to that embarrassing walk back to the boat.
Do as I say, not as I do. That's what he's saying. All right, so I really want to get this, today, because it is relatively new, and we'll go through it. And Scott, I'm gonna start with you. You sent it to me. The question being, just how bad is the oystering problem on the Gulf Coast? Well, we talk about it occasionally, but it's apparently this bad. I guess Texas Parks and Wildlife Department is shutting down some more commercial and recreational oyster harvesting in Matagorda Bay, Caleb. And apparently they're working with the oyster industry. Yeah. They can close harvesting areas. Takes place this weekend, actually. And right now, 11 of the state's 34 shellfish harvesting areas are open to the public. This, to me, the thing that I thought of, Scott, and I want to get your thoughts and then kind of go around the horn here before we get to what would Scott do, what would Caleb and Dean do. It's good. Obviously, we want them to be able to monitor this, but I think, God, it also tells us just how bad the oyster reefs are right now.
You can see it when you cross over from one of the bridges, like at Port Lavaca. And when they hit that reef over there, 20, 30, 40 boats will be on top of it. But what happens is they have a deal where they go out and Parks and Wildlife samples it. If a certain percentage of the oysters are under the legal size limit, then they shut that area down. And that's why there's so many closed places, because oyster boats go in there, they take all of the oysters. That'll tell you. I mean, they break it pretty hard, and they'll take all the oysters that are of legal size, and then at that point, they're bringing up more illegal size than they are legal, and destroying the reef for no reason other than to cull through and try to find the few that are left. So when the percentage gets that low, they just shut the area down. Only problem is when they do that, then all those boats move to those fewer areas that are open. And that's how we get the 30, 40, 50 boats piled up on one reef, just raping the hell out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, going by what Scott's saying here, because it's kind of the thought I had when you said they're shutting down Matagorda. I was like, well, the hell is there left to save? And if part of the process where they shut it down or not is does it completely suck or not, that kind of backs that up a little bit. I mean, small victories, I guess. Yeah. But the big reefs that we all knew and loved back then, they're not there to save anymore.
What's it like? I was going to ask you, because I really haven't fished East Matagorda or Matagorda, regularly in about 3 years now. And I can generally, I can go straight to some reefs, some deeper reefs that I know, there's going to be fish and there's going to be some reefs. Are you seeing like the deterioration of those?
Well, I mean, instead of big shell beds on bottom where you're guaranteed to lose your lure if you let it get down, now you can just reel up a clump of shell and get your lure back. That's what I've seen in a lot of it. It's, the west end was a lot of shell, and now it's just just scattered clumps here and there. It's
that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, if they stop now, Cade's kids might see some cool reefs, but it's the same thing that got me and Scott banned from talking to Parks and Wildlife after the freeze, and that wit.
Yeah.
And so, but
I'm sorry
and
if
on
y'all
the
can hear that or
subject
not.
of those oyster reefs. So, and just back up like a couple months ago when we had that conversation, like Caleb, I know exactly what you're talking about, because the reefs that we have here in Redfish Bay, which we don't have the abundance of reefs here like there are further north, but as those reefs get oystered, harvested, and those abundance of oysters are gone, they're not getting reseeded. They're not getting little baby oysters that are attaching to the shells that you're dragging to the boat. So once upon a time, when those reefs had those live oysters that were sticking straight up in the water, it's just a pile of shell now. And along with those oysters being harvested, it's the fact that they're not getting seeded. Man, somebody don't know how to silence their
I'm
phone.
trying, man. I've got them all on, and this guy's getting through. Sorry.
So,
Man, you're getting hacked.
what are you seeing, Scott? Because both, Port O'Connor and down where Dean and I are used to be a pretty damn abundant, and so I guess this helps a little bit. But what are you seeing?
I mean, all it's going to be is when they go back out and sample again, and the oysters have a chance to grow enough to where a certain percentage are of legal size, and they open it right back up. What oystering does in the modern way of oystering, they drag the bottom with those dredges, and it breaks the reef apart. And so oysters need a relief from the bottom. I mean, they do better when they're not on the bottom. Well, when they do this and they pull them up and they're not of size, they throw them back. Well, as they throw them back, that's what Caleb's talking about, picking up, hanging a lure and pulling up a clump of oysters. The reefs are scattered, and they're not a solid reef anymore.
Yeah. Because oysters, what you're saying is oysters grow on oysters grow on oysters. That's what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Oysters grow on top of other oysters. So if you break up the reef, and now it's all a good reef comes up off the bottom. It's deeper water, and it comes up, up higher and higher and higher, and they grow that way. When you oyster in the way that they have been for decades now, it just spreads the whole reef out, and it puts it lower and lower, and the oysters just don't have a chance to really form those big, huge reefs like we used to have. The only good thing going on right now with the oystering is the aquaculture stuff. Should help some. They're producing more and more oysters that way, but also the buyback. At the end of that article, it talks about buyback price is being offered at $30,000 per license. Those who don't know, there are no new oyster licenses being bought. If you have an oyster license, you can sell it to somebody else. That's the only way you can get into the oystering game.
Yeah.
But that everybody was wondering how much that was going to help. They say that they have reduced the number of oyster licenses by 21% already.
That's pretty good.
Since that program started.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant.
But and a lot of those licenses that were sold immediately were people that weren't oystering. So people were holding licenses that weren't. So the realistic number
maybe a little lower.
But one other thing that was in that article was the position that Texas Parks and Wildlife is in, because they're still supporting an industry. They're still supporting, and I was trying to find the number. I have it here in front of me. I couldn't find what the value of oystering in Texas actually is. It's multi-million-dollar industry in the state. So Texas Parks and Wildlife is in the middle of trying to save an industry, support them in their own way, and also protect the habitat. Texas Parks and Wildlife gets hammered from both sides on every subject, whether you're on the conservation side or the industrial side. Nobody is ever happy with their decision when it comes to limits on fish. I mean, we saw what took place with the last go round of creating the speckled trout limit that we have now. So
Yeah.
that battle is taking place with oysters, and those guys with their sampling, and I'm sure there's some very smart people that are doing the best they can to preserve both sides of the argument, to make both sides somewhat happy.
Every once in a while in fishing, a reel comes along that changes the game. That reel is here, and if you're not using one, your friends are, and they're probably catching more fish. For sure, they're fishing with more confidence and comfort. Bates reels are the fishing industry's original CNC milled, one-piece aluminum, low-profile frame, built to last, it's built to fish. All Bates reels saltwater ready and good to go. You know I've got them on my boat. You should too. All reels, 3-year no BS warranty, and they mean that. And a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're dissatisfied, you will not be. I say it all the time. It is true. No bull, just Bates. All right, so we know it's going to be kind of iffy this weekend. So the what would Scott do? What would Caleb do? What would Dean do? Is going to be short.
What would John do?
Let's do what John do.
I'll tell you what John's going to do. John's going to get down to Aransas Pass because I got to pick up some stuff for my trip to the Super Bowl. I got my extra microphone because we're going to do this podcast. I'll be in Santa Clara, is down there, and I want to try to get with Dean and try to pick up a fly fishing reel that he may have for my son. And I want to get a deer shoulder. I want to get a shoulder from Dean that he's promised me, so I can maybe make some barbacoa, some venison barbacoa, or something along those lines. So that's what I'm going to do.
You know what else you need to pick up on your way to Aransas Pass is some hot cocoa.
Hot cocoa, yes.
Because while you're sitting at the cabin wishing you were fishing, you can enjoy a nice little cup of cocoa with some marshmallows.
Or a hot toddy. So just real quick before we get out of here, Caleb and Scott, we have a lot of our listeners that are not necessarily weekday challenged and maybe can get into an off day or something. Let's look at next week, because Caleb, you gave me this idea. You were talking about, well, maybe after the front it's going to be cold, the water's going to be 55 and all that. Let's not talk about this weekend because it's going to be a mess. Let's talk about what you would do if you could get on the water next week, presuming the weather is all right.
I would apologize to the hypothermic Cuban since you said that the cold front ain't going to go past Houston.
Hey, it's not a jinx. Although I realize full well I'm going to get destroyed by you three if we do get one of those freezers. Absolutely destroyed. And
you already talked about a hurricane and it actually didn't happen. I don't know why you keep pushing it.
That's right.
Well, the poetic justice is going to be when he's sitting on his couch sipping his cocoa.
Damn, it's cold. Dang, it's cold.
Thinking about it.
I should be out on the water.
For next week, I'm going to take the Texas Parks and Wildlife approach. I'm going to be reactive and not proactive. So we'll just have to see what happens next week.
Do you have any ideas? I know it's a longer term forecast, but the water temps should be okay if the sun comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think they'll hunker down for a couple of days and then start climbing back out on the flats and enjoying some sun and some warmth again.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's getting down into the 40s at night, so it might keep them a little closer to the warm spots, and they wouldn't venture out as far. But I think in the middle of the day they'll be out cruising and looking around if it goes the way it's looking like it's going to go right now. That's merely a guesstimate.
Same for you, Scott. But certainly with the deeper with the water out so much, it's going to help some too if you can get out there.
Yeah, from what I'm looking at, we won't have any fishable days from Saturday until we're back together again next Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. By Wednesday, Thursday, it's looking like it settles down a little bit. But this front's got some staying power. And it's rolling in Friday night, Saturday morning, and still blowing north. Down here, they're saying north at pushing 30 into the Tuesday morning.
Awesome. I'll be on the front porch drinking cocoa.
I mean,
that north wind goes across that front porch like you're not going to be there long.
But if you can get out, I'm fishing Thursday, probably Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe Friday morning. I've got some trips lined up. Hell, that's looking good if you can get out now. Get out ahead of this front, and fish know the front's coming. they're going to eat.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's going to get pretty good
Mhm.
before this thing hits. But yeah, once this thing hits, and it would not be. There's going to be duck hunters out there in this stuff being stupid. We had one this weekend that they flipped over there in front of Pringle, and somebody found the boat with the decoys out and the whole bit.
Oh boy.
And they were okay. They found them. Coast
Mhm.
Guard, Parks and Wildlife, everybody got involved and found the guys. But yeah, fronts like this ain't nothing to play with.
Yeah.
They got hung up out there in that front that was blowing through last week. But you were talking about the deer shoulder. I was hunting with Marcus this weekend. We ran the hunt with some customers out in Petula, and he's got a new guy that's working there helping clean deer. He's from Cuba, and after he quartered our deer up and put them in the cooler and all that, then he had the skeleton sitting over there on the table, and he don't get in a knife fight with this dude. I mean,
Oh, cutting it up.
Oh man, and he got more dadgum meat off of that. And Marcus walked by and he says, "Damn, the buzzard's gonna be pissed." I'm talking, dude, it was white bones. That was all.
That's
it was.
crazy.
He had the ribs off, he had the neck off, and he was scraping meat off of every little piece. That dude
Hey,
was
good.
not letting anything go. Yeah. Things
Yeah.
are different in Cuba.
They sure are. All right, boys, good stuff, man. You guys came through as always. Again, don't forget to book them. You guys got any parting shots? Anything you wanna make sure our listeners know about?
Quit driving down the shorelines.
Quit driving down the shorelines. There we go. All right, you guys. I'm glad you could join us. Appreciate these three as always. You guys have a great week, great weekend. Catch them up. We'll talk to you next time.
You know, aside from the Weather Channel or something, Scott's bound to have a hip or a knee or something that's going to be more accurate to this front.